Hello everybody, it's Optitron Prime here, back from what you might call a hiatus. The last video I shot was in November, and that was the just uploaded today review of Fast Track. And since November I've been through one job and started another and moved to an entirely different city in a new time zone, and I've just been very busy. And I thought, why not get back into the swing of doing video reviews, because now I can. So I couldn't find what I wanted to be the subject of this particular review or the other one, so I thought that I would just use what I had laying around, which was still part of the same general thing. So the subject of today's review is the Transformers Earthrise Voyager class Megatron. And I gotta tell you straight up, when I first saw pictures of this guy, I shared the opinions of a well-known reviewer on YouTube named P.L., who said that there weren't really enough differences between this version and the Siege version to warrant him buying it. And I think he still ended up getting it anyway, and so did I. And I gotta tell you, I like this figure. I really do. It's to me, it's better than the Siege version, and I'll bring in the Siege version in a little bit for a comparison. But I dig the cohesiveness of this tank mode as opposed to the Siege version. It looks like an actual Earth-based tank, which you would never think Megatron would do, but he did. It's not the first time he's taken an Earth mode either. Let's see, I don't think I have him laying around. He took an Earth mode in Dark of the Moon, and I have that figure somewhere. I just don't remember. Oh, here he is. The last time I remember him taking an Earth mode was this guy. And I dig that figure too. But we're talking about this guy today. We'll get into a review of that Megatron later, after Earthrise is done and I do some Kingdom reviews. Get up to date with the Kingdom stuff that I've got, because I've got a lot of it now. But this guy, we're talking about this guy today. So I dig him. There's no doubt who he's affiliated with faction wise. I mean, he's the leader, so you gotta have Decepticon symbol. He's got it on one side, which is perfectly okay. There's one on his chest so you don't get him confused. And this looks totally G1. This looks G1. I just realized that looking at it now. Complete and total G1 look here. Even though it doesn't turn into a gun, which I have a knockoff version of MP36 that I might take a look at if I can nail the transformation again, but that's for a different day. This guy I dig, and I know I've said that a few times, but I really do like him. Let's take a closer look at some of the details of him. There is the schmutz, I guess you'd say, on him that I know Vault Matrix hates, but I don't mind it. It's not bad. It's meant to be battle damage, and that's the way I look at it. He's been hit a few times. He used to be a gladiator. He's been hit a few times, so you really can't argue with there being schmutz all over him. But I know Vault Matrix hates having schmutz on his figures. I know that. But what's interesting about this D16, for those of you that know Transformers lore, D16 actually Megatron's first moniker. That was his given name. When he was first created, he worked in the mines, and his name was D16. And then he sought to challenge the system of Cybertron that was ruled by classes and things of that nature. And he changed his name to Megatronus after one of the primes, and then he changed his name to Megatron. And if you want to read the backstory on that, I highly recommend you read the Exodus book. I love that book. It's got a great history of what happened before G1 in it. Absolutely love it. But that's the whole thing behind D16, and it is on both sides. And I love it because that was his very first moniker. He's got, if you look at the top, there's some hatches up here for crew members, and there's an actual hatch where military men would come out of the tank there, and there's some molded in, looks like gas tanks and stuff that an Earth tank would have, which I love. Looks like gearboxes there, and they went the extra mile to make him look like he would be an Earth tank, but giving him the Megatron feel with the D16 and of course the Decepticon badge. And I love the way they merged those two styles. But anyway, for size comparisons, before we get into the one thing I don't like about this figure, and it's the one thing that everybody else doesn't like about this figure. We'll get into that when we get into the transformation and of course the robot mode, which I love the robot mode in and of itself. The transformation is great. There's just one thing about this figure I don't like, and we'll get into that, of course. You probably already know what it is. First comparison, you know we have to do it. The Netflix version of the Siege mold. This is a total H tank like Cybertronian, and this is of course Earth-based. I like this more than this. I'd say this is a bad figure. I have this one, I have the regular one. I like this better. And when I first saw pictures, I didn't like it at all. I thought there wasn't enough differences between this and this to warrant buying this. Boy, was I wrong. You can clearly tell that this is more cohesive as a tank, and I absolutely love that. This looks, looking at it, I'm getting an animated Shockwave vibe from this tank mode. I miss animated Shockwave. I would love to have another one at some point, track down another copy of that figure because I loved it. Love the animated line, love the show, but we're going off on a tangent again. I'm known for doing that, I guess. I'd say this is a bad figure. I just like this one better. And I'll transform him off camera when we get this guy to robot mode so we can see the differences in robot mode. And random comparison. Here he is with the, excuse me, Megs, the Siege Optimus Prime. And I do have the Earthrise mold, but it's currently in robot mode, and I don't want to transform everything off camera. I like to just use whatever I have laying around in different modes for comparisons. If you've seen previous reviews, that's the way I like to do it. I don't do editing or anything of that nature. I just shoot videos. That's the way I like to do it. With the Siege Optimus, looks pretty good. Obviously this is Earth-based and this is Cybertronian, but they could go up against each other, and who knows? If I make stop motion series like I wanted to a couple years back, everybody will go up against everybody. So yeah, each Autobot and each Decepticon is going to fight against whatever version. For example, we could have this Bumblebee going up against, say, where's a good Decepticon? We could have this Bumblebee going up against this Breakdown. And because it's a stop motion series, you can do whatever you want with it. You can have this guy fighting this guy and it could be completely fine. And both of these guys are going to be reviewed at some point. There's not a lot of figures I have that won't be reviewed. There's only one right now that I can think of, maybe 2 or 3. And that's just because either the transformation's too intricate and I can't do it without getting frustrated. Well, that's pretty much the only reason. But Siege Prime, I like him. He's a little bit broken. You can see this is snapped off, so you can't use that side port anymore like you can on this side. Not a problem for me. Another random comparison, and pardon how malformed he is. Studio Series Sentinel Prime. I have 2 of this guy. Absolutely love him. I'm hoping eventually to get my hands on the upgrade set for him that gives him the proper weapons. There he is with Sentinel Prime. Here he is with another completely off-the-wall comparison. The old generation's Wheelie. Absolutely love this guy. He's a repaint, slight remold of the old Jazz, which I don't have, but love this guy. And we'll do a couple more comparisons with smaller vehicles, just because these are figures I love and will definitely get reviews of. Deep Cover. Absolutely adore this figure. It's Siege Sideswipe again, but come on. I love it. And when I do his review, I'll explain why I love it. Here he is with Hubcap, who's also going to get a review because I don't hate the Cliff Jumper mold. After all, I've got Cliff Jumper, I've got this guy, I've got Bug Bite, I've got Bumblebee. I don't hate this mold. Clearly. Here he is with a mold made of a figure I wanted to do a review of, but can't find him. Here he is with Spin Out. And one more completely off-the-wall comparison before we get into transformation. Here he is with another figure that I absolutely adore now. Classics Onslaught. Absolutely adore this figure. I'm sorry. I love doing that. I'm like Imgo in that respect. I love using the noise features on a Transformer. I know it annoys some people, but I absolutely love it. So without further ado, we'll get into the transformation of this guy. I know I'm late reviewing him, so everybody knows how he works, but I didn't start doing reviews until everything was already out, so I might share while I'm working on this the story of why I started doing video reviews. So we will start the transformation on this guy. First thing, pull off the one thing I don't like. I hate this sword. I absolutely despise this sword, but you need it for vehicle mode, so you can't toss it aside into a cubby because you need it for vehicle mode. I hate this sword. I absolutely despise it. But what can you do? They made it essential for vehicle mode. Of course they did. One thing I don't like about this figure. Hate this sword. And if you can, go ahead and split the legs just a little down here and pull out. There's a little piece back here. This piece. And from here on, the transformation is very, very similar, almost identical to the Siege version. So, open up this piece on both sides. Come and split it off from the front. Now this is the intricate part. You've got to make sure you do this in exactly the right way, or you're going to end up frustrated and doing a lot of extra steps you shouldn't have to do. Hold this piece right here and bring this around and bring it down. Close this up and flip out the heel spur. And the front of him is actually the other way. So you want to turn this around at the thigh swivel. Do the same thing on this side. Hold this right here. Bring this around and down. Close this up and fold out the heel spur. And turn it around at the thigh swivel, then rotate him at the waist. All pretty much taken from the Siege version. Now this is not from the Siege version. You want to take these treads and split them off from the chest and bring this whole section up. Now that is from the Siege version. But in the Siege version, these treads didn't tab on right here. I love that. And I also love that the head on this guy, well, we'll get into that when we get into full-on robot mode. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Come back here and split the arms. Oh yeah, that's right, okay. I'll make sure his cannon ends up on his right arm because classic Megatron. Take the treads, fold them in while folding this panel back. And there you go with that. And bring the arms forward and lock them in. That one locks in. This one likes to fight me for some unknown reason. I don't know why. There we go. It went right in. And this is supposed to lock down like that. Then fold out the fist. Now this version also doesn't have the pieces on his shoulders, so I do kind of dig that. Rotate the cannon this way, fold out the fist, and I always bend the elbows on my figures. You don't have to, that's just a personal thing for me. And there is Earthrise Megatron in his robot mode. I absolutely, let me see if I can do this. Yeah, okay. That's the best I can do with the tripod I've got on me right now. I love this thing. I love it. I love it so much. Now you can, if you want to, take this sword and peg it on his arm, but I absolutely despise the way that looks. If I do it, I usually spin it around and have another gun. But you can store it across his back. And that's just, I don't like that. I don't like it. I only keep the sword with this guy in the interest of not losing it, and he's wanting to fall over. And this piece, you really don't have to do anything with this. I like the traditional Megatron look. Take this off, leave him like this. That's the way I leave him. I guess we can come in close and take a look at him detail-wise. He looks completely G1, except for the backpack. If you took this backpack off, he would be G1. The head is G1, the chest, the broad chest is G1, the arms are G1, the legs almost look like the gun. And the feet, even the feet are G1, and I dig that. He's as G1 as they could get him with this particular tank mode, having to still be there. But coming in close, they actually painted his unibrow black, and I dig that. His face is silver to stand out from the gray, and his eyes are painted red. Of course they are. He's evil. Traditional bucket head design. Little molded in lines here. I dig that. I always dig when Hasbro does stuff like this. Molded in some stuff there. Looks like he's got, well, you couldn't call this brass knuckles, but if he gave you a backhand, you know it would hurt. It's a solid plank back there. Not much molded in stuff on the legs. empty this to facilitate the transformation. There's some stuff back here. And this panel is really to hide the hollow nature of the legs. I dig that. Of course, this is just tank treads. And there's some little stuff back here that you're not going to see because the treads are over it. But I dig it. I still dig it. And you can tell he used to be D16. He wears it proudly. Even though I'm sure if you walked up to him and called him D16, he would kill you without a second thought. But he still wears it in this form. But that's pretty much it detail-wise. He's got a very G1 accurate fusion cannon. Kind of looks like the one on his statue that I dig. I need the Optimus Prime statue of these guys. I got this one in the Soundwave, which I guess I can show you. These guys are at GameStop, and they're not cheap. They're $50 a pop, but I normally don't buy statues. But when you look in there and see these guys, absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. They don't have any articulation, but they're just great-looking statues. It's the only time I buy a statue. I do have Funko Pops. And they're pretty cool too. And the fact that they actually have weapons, I dig it. The only one I don't like is Optimus Prime because he refuses to stand up on his own. But back to the subject of today's review. Love this guy. For comparison, let me look around here. That would be bonkers. Let's see. We can bring in this breakdown, Combiner Wars breakdown, who is yellowing with time. Doesn't bother me too much. If it does start bothering me, I'll look for ways to clean him up. I'll go ahead and bring in what he would eventually become about 20 years later. Studio Series Movie 1 Megatron. He went from this to this in 20 years. Nah. Love Michael Bay or hate him, you gotta admit Transformers was on a downward spiral before the first movie came out. And you can't deny that. Love him or hate him, he brought life back into the franchise. If it wasn't for Michael Bay, we wouldn't have Transformers now. After the Unicron trilogy, it was going downhill so fast. Love Michael Bay or hate him, we have to thank him for this, or at least I do. I love the movie designs. And speaking of movie designs, here's one. Nah, he's mangled. Here's a third-party one that I absolutely love. One of my favorite third-party figures of all time, as Imgo has also stated. Let me get him situated here. Don't want him to look like he's just been in some kind of bar fight. Unique Toys Lockdown. Absolutely love this thing. He will be reviewed. I can't review their Optimus Prime because I broke him in 2 places, and I can't review their Last Night Megatron because his transformation is just way too bonkers. Unless I master it. I intend to get their Galvatron if I have money. Right now I have next to no money, but I do have a job, so maybe I can start having some extra money, but a lot of my money goes towards bills. So there won't be a lot of new figures coming in to review, so I'll just have to keep reviewing old ones like Breakdown. Or this guy. Or this guy, my favorite G1 triple changer. There will be less new figures coming in now that most of my money goes towards bills. I had to buy a new car. I've got an apartment that's a little bit, it takes a lot of money. A lot of my money goes towards bills, so there won't be a lot of new figures coming in, and I do apologize for that. But I've got a lot of stuff laying here to be reviewed until new stuff comes in. I've got some new stuff. I've got three figures that were just released. Excuse me, it's later on in the afternoon here, and I'm always tired, so bear with me. Love this thing. Think you were born? No, you were built. I don't want to get sued by Paramount. Speaking of movie designs, didn't really care much for this figure when he was revealed. Absolutely love him now. The Bumblebee movie Starscream. If I can get him all in frame here. He's a wide boy. A wide boy. Yeah. Love him so much more than Blitzwing. Can't wait to have Thrust and see if they make more. And while I bring in my next comparison, I will transform the other one off camera, but here he is with the Earthrise Prime mold. This is the shattered glass version. Love the shattered glass version. Now let me work on this other comparison for just a second. And I will show you the differences. And then maybe halfway through transformation I'll bring in a comparison with what will probably be my next review. But yes, I love the Earthrise Prime mold anyway. I never knew what shattered glass was at the time that it was actually a thing, because I didn't get into Transformers until the first Michael Bay film. I had a couple of them when I was a kid, but I never really quite understood what they were at the time. And this leg is going to give me problems because, of course, it is Murphy's Law. I'm one of the reigning champions of Murphy's Law, let me tell you. Anything that can go wrong usually does. I've had some good stuff happen to me recently, but there are always some stinkers. Guess that's life, you know. As they said in Joker, which love Joaquin Phoenix. Not just because he played Johnny Cash, but he did a great job as Joker. In my opinion, he did. I don't know if he did as good as Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson, but he is definitely, no disrespect to Jared Leto, but every movie Joker is better than him. I don't know if that's just because he got a lot of his part cut or what, but just the way they handled his character, I didn't like it. I love the Suicide Squad movie as a whole. Love Margot Robbie to death. Will Smith is awesome. All that, but Jared Leto's Joker I just didn't care for. And I've got the other Megatron pretty much ready to go. Let me put his sword in his hand. And I'll tell you the one thing I don't like about the Siege Megatron. Prime out of the way. Here is the Siege version. And there's... the head is different. The chest is differently molded. The ab section is definitely differently molded. Pretty much most everything is remolded. Definitely, yeah. I mean, they completely... the engineering is similar on this, but they completely revamped these guys. And I dig that. I didn't think they would be this different, but they are completely. The only thing that's the same between them is a lot of the engineering. The molding is completely different on these guys, and I dig that. One final comparison before we wrap things up here. This will be my next review, and I apologize that his bench stand, whatever you want to call it, is on the other side of the room, but here he is with, and this is from the Pit of Judgment, Here he is with the Quintessons. And this is, like I said, this will probably be the next review I do, because I don't want to do the Stars of the Wave right now. I wanted to save them till last, but I can't find Sunstreaker and I can't find Trailbreaker to save the world. I've dug through pretty much everything, and they've both pulled a mirage on me. They've vanished. I don't know what happened to them. If I find them, they will be reviewed. If I don't find them, then I'll just go ahead and do the Stars of the Wave sooner than expected. But here's the Quintesson Judge. But to wrap this video up, absolutely love this guy. And no, he doesn't turn into a gun like most people would think he should. I get why. And I dig what they did with this. I absolutely love it. So if you are one of the few, I guess, that don't have this figure and you like Megatron, find one of these. eBay would probably be your best option, because conventions are slowly but surely coming back, but eBay would probably be your best bet for anything that's not currently out, like Kingdom. The only place, brick and mortar, that I've seen anything Earthrise in is Meyer, and it was a Battle Master. So your best bet finding this guy, if you don't have him, would be eBay, Amazon, online basically. But yeah, I completely dig this guy. And yeah, another gem from the Earthrise line. I think Earthrise, Siege, and Earthrise and Kingdom were great lines. The Kingdom is still going on, obviously, and I'm still looking for some stuff from that. But as far as Earthrise Megatron goes, love him. The only thing I don't like, this thing, if they didn't make it essential for vehicle mode, I would throw it somewhere and never look at it again, but you can't do that. How much have you had to drink, Megatron? How much? We need to lay you off the Energon, clearly. But this has been my review of the Transformers Earthrise Voyager class Megatron. And this is Optitron Prime saying, roll out.